Hi, I'm Anne from Game Like a Mother. I specialize in games that can be played in 20 minutes or less, and these are my top 10 games for adults traveling on an airplane. You want quiet, compact games that work well at 2-player count and will fit on an airplane tray table. I have all the games listed in the description of the video along with the timestamp if you want to skip to a particular one, so let's get started. First up, we have Hive Pocket, which is a fantastic 2-player tile game in which you are trying to use your little tile pieces to surround the other player's queen bee. And it's insect themed, and you have a spider, beetle, army ant, grasshopper, and with this edition, you also have the ladybug and mosquito, and they all have different movements that they do. The grasshopper can jump across the entire hive, any of the tiles, to the next open spot. Spider always moves 3 spaces. It's very thematic too to what the different animals are like. Beetles are the only ones that can crawl on top of the hive, and it's just fantastic. It will fit on an airplane tray table if you have the pocket version, but the tiles are really handy because this works not just on the airplane, but this will work at restaurants. This will work at a beach or at the lake or at the pool. It will work in windy conditions because they're little tiles and they won't go anywhere. So it's just an incredibly good game in its own right, but because of the way it's put together, it just is exceptional and fantastic for travel. Next, we have Red 7. This is a rule-based card game in which you are eliminated at the end of your turn if you are not winning at whatever the current rule is in the center of the board. So what this looks like is if it's the person's turn next to you and there's a red card placed in the center and they have the red 7 in front of them, the name of the game, that's the highest card you can have, then they would be winning at that rule, and so they would get to stay in. It would be your turn, and now you have a choice to either adjust the rule in the center, adjust the cards in front of you, or do both. The cards in your hand can work for either adjusting the rule or adjusting what you have in front of you. So you can change it to, oh, I'm playing it to this different color, so it's the most cards in sequence is the winner. And now I have a 5, 6, 7 in front of me, and so I'm the winner at that rule. It goes on to the next person. They change the rule to the most cards under 4, and so it keeps on going until somebody isn't able to play anything that makes it so they'd be winning at a rule, and then they're eliminated from the game, and whoever's left is the winner for that round. Deal it out and play again. What's great about this game is the rounds are very quick. You can play a round or two and say, oh, that was fun, nice interlude on the flight, you're fine. Or if you really want to get into it, you can take a while playing this game. You can play where you get points for whoever wins the end of the round. The cards that they won with, they score. There are advanced rules where all of the odd cards have special abilities. Those are action rules, advanced rules where you play a card in the center and you're able to draw more cards into your hand, which is very, very useful as well. So this game is great because the base concept is pretty simple and you can get going very quickly, but if you're really into it, this can occupy you for quite some time, which is ideal if you're on a long flight. Next up, we have Monopoly Deal. This is all the guts and glory of Monopoly, but in a 20-minute version of the game with just a deck of cards. And I like Monopoly. I grew up playing Monopoly a ton. I played it even when I was in college. I found an online way to play Monopoly with friends because I was that cool. But this is more strategic. I really like that it adds to the strategy of the game, and it is not quite so luck-based, although you can get lucky with the cards that you draw and what you get to do. So what you're doing is you have these cards in your hand, and you can play properties down in front of you, you can play money down in front of you, and you can play action cards. And the action cards allow you to collect rent from other players. You can still collect rent in this, and they either pay you with the money out in front of you, or they can choose to use their properties as money. If they're out of money, they give you their properties, which you want because that's how you win, by getting the 3 monopolies. So this game, it's just a deck of cards. It will take up much of your tray table when you play, but it'll fit. It's an okay one to bring on a plane. And it's so great because it's very cheap. It's somewhere between $5 to $7 on Amazon, and I think it's at Target. I found it at my local Walgreens before. It's just kind of everywhere, and people are very willing to play this game with you because they're familiar with Monopoly, and so even if all they've ever done is played regular Monopoly, if you bring this along with on a trip and you play it with a friend on the airplane and then you get to your destination and want to play it with people, it plays up to 5 players, and usually people are pretty willing to play something that they're familiar with, and so people will play this game with you, which makes it just an additional boost to bring along because it will be well loved and well used. Next up, we have Farkle Flip, which is a way to play the very loud dice game, but quietly with cards on an airplane. And I like it because it still has the general feel of Farkle. You're trying to be the first to 10,000 points, but there's a little more strategy involved as you play, which I appreciate. All you're doing on your turn is you're flipping over different number cards, and you get to play them in front of whoever you like. So if you flip over a 1, you can play it in front of yourself. If you flip over a 5 and somebody has some 5s going on in front of them, you can add it to their pile of 5s. And if you keep on going, you're flipping over cards, and you get to where you've just played a 5, and now there's 4 5s in front of that person. You can drag them out into the center of the board, and that's where your scoring pile is. So you can do that and then just keep on going because, ooh, there are 3 1s. I want to see if I can draw another 1, and then I get to score both of those. And after you've pulled a pile out into the center, if you draw another 5 after that, you can't add it to that in the center. It goes off to the side, so that feels like the regular game of Farkle as well. There's some really nice elements and tie-ins. But then, if you flip over a Farkle card, then you don't score anything. You put the cards back in the center that you were reserving back to whoever they were in front of originally. And then it's the next person's turn, and they get to flip over cards, and they can't just take that pile of 5s that was looking good in front of the other player. They have to draw a 5 and have played it on that pile, and then they can pull it out in the center. And if it's like their second card, they pull a 5 out, they can say, okay, that's it. I want to score that. And so for 5 5s, I think you get 2,000 points. And so they would just take that, put it in the discard pile, and then their turn is over. It goes on to the next player. So you end a turn by either pulling a Farkle card or by scoring whatever you have in the middle. And you just are first to 10,000 points. So it's a really sweet twist on a well-loved, pretty classic game, and it is a perfect way to bring your favorite game, Farkle, onto an airplane without annoying everybody else around you with very loud dice rolls, and it works very well. Next up, we have Tussie Mussie, in which you are speaking the language of flowers, and you are trying to score the most points over 3 rounds of play. And the beauty of this game is it comes in a little wallet, and there's 18 cards in it. It is super tiny, so great for travel, easy to fit into a bag. And all you're doing is you are offering cards, you are offering flowers to your opponent, and they get to choose which one they want. Each time you pick 2 cards, you decide which one's going to be face up and which one's going to be face down for a bit of mystery. And they get to choose between the 2, and they take one and you go ahead and take the other. If it's face down, it's a keepsake. If it's face up, then it's part of your bouquet, which makes your arrangement of 4 cards. And the terminology is important because they score differently sometimes if they are face down or face up. And you just go until you have 4 cards, which is so great for on an airplane. Sometimes that is just the exact right number of cards to have in front of you. And it's a great little puzzly game where it's just 18 cards, but there's enough little bits that rules on the different cards and things that you're going for. So it's a nice puzzle to unlock each time how to maximize your points, and is just so compact and tiny and so ideal for bringing along. And the publisher Button Shy makes a bunch of these games. The one thing is they are not as readily available on Amazon or in like your local big box store. So I usually go to the Button Shy website to go ahead and order these. But good news, I like a lot of their games, and the next one on this list is also a Button Shy game. So while you're getting Tussie Mussie, you can get this next one as well. Next up, we have Skulls of Sedlec, another Button Shy card game that just comes in this little portable wallet, which is so great, but a slightly different theme than Tussie Mussie. In this, you are a half-blind monk, and you are having to rearrange the graves in the graveyard, and it's another game in which you are trying to maximize your points, but in this, you're making kind of a pyramid of all of these cards that represent graves, and you are trying to maximize the points of every level. You get points for having one priest on every level, and then the criminals want to be buried next to the priests because to atone for their sins in the afterlife. The lovers wish to be buried next to each other because even after they pass away, they wish to be together. And then the kings are supposed to be at the top of the heap with as many kings and peasants below them. That's how they score the most points. So it's just a nice, you're trying to maximize your points. The theme is kind of a hoot. It's pretty funny to play. And it plays 2 or 3 players. It exactly fits just perfectly on a tray table. And it's so easy to bring along. I wanted to add a number of the Button Shy games to this list because I love them so much. They're all just so portable, well done. And my husband suggested, maybe they just deserve their own list. So I'm probably going to do that at some point. But they're great games to check out. If you're traveling, you can bring a whole bunch and just have them take up a tiny bit of space. And Skulls of Sedlec is especially great because it does fit so well on an airplane. Next up, we have Illusion. And Illusion is a game in which you are trying to line up different cards according to their percentage of color. It's a very different kind of game concept, and I like it because it is so easy to get up and running with anyone. And it is fun and interesting to play. The paintings, the pictures kind of look like Rorschach drawings, a lot of them, so they're fun to look at. And all you do is you flip out one of the arrow cards. You might start with a red arrow card, and that means you need to line up. People take turns flipping out a card, and each person is trying to put those cards in sequence according to that red arrow card. So from the least amount of red in the picture to the most. And so you keep on going, taking turns placing out cards until somebody says, I think one of those is out of sequence. And at that point, they stop and they flip over the cards one by one, and you look at the percentages on the back of the cards, and they have the percentages of all the different colors listed out on them. And if one of the cards wasn't in correct sequence, then they win the red arrow card. You're trying to win the most of those arrow cards to win the game. And if all of the cards were in fact in sequence, then the person who last played one of the cards out of the center gets the arrow card and they win. And so then you flip out another card. Maybe it's a blue arrow card this time, and then the person who just won the card flips out the first card, and you just keep on going. And I love this because it works well at 2 players, and it's just really fun and easy to get out. If somebody just wants to be able to chat and not have things be too difficult while they're playing, this is fun, interesting, and chatty while you're playing. It works well with 2 people on the airplane, but I've used this game before when I've had like 6 women over and people wanted to chat, but I wanted to play a game, and so I got this out, and it was great because everyone got it instantly. You could still talk while you were playing, and it was something fun going on. It was an activity to participate in together. So it's great both for the plane, just with a couple people, but when you get to your destination, and if there are a number of people you want to play with, it works well for that too. So a very versatile, easy pick, and you don't feel bad if you lose at this game. I mean, if you get oops, I was off by 2%, the amount of red in this picture, and so it was off. You don't feel bad about your game playing ability or that you lost. It's just, oops, I got that and I got that wrong. And so it makes it really good that it's a competitive game, but it seems it's pretty lighthearted fun for all involved. Next up, we have Timeline, which is a great little game, which again is so easy to get up and running because the base rules to play the game are so simple. In a 2-player game, each person is dealt 6 cards face up in front of you. You want to make sure you don't see the dates on the back. A card is flipped out in the center where you can see it's like the invention of the can opener and the date for it. And then you get to pick any one of you, take turns, and you get to pick any one of your cards and place it out next to that card. So if I had the domestication of sheep, I was pretty sure that's before the invention of the can opener. So I can place it out in sequence and then I flip it over and sure enough, I was right. And then it's the next person's turn and you're just trying to be the first to get rid of all of your cards. And if they play a card and they had one that was like the invention of sliced bread and oh, oops, they placed it out there and it was in the wrong spot, then you discard that card and you just have to draw a new one from the deck and put it into your hand on the side where you can't see the date. So it's nice because it's not overly punitive if you do get something wrong. It's not like, oh gosh, I've gotten smacked down and it's how can I come back from this? Oh, oops, it's the same as if I hadn't played a card that turn. Not a big deal. And I also really like that you can, if somebody's very good at this type of thing and you're playing a 2-player game, it's easy to just deal one of the people a few extra cards, to kind of give them a little bit of a handicap. And this game is great for larger groups too, because you can kind of chat. There's a fun activity. What's going on with the different cards in the center? It's a fun thing to chat and laugh about as you play. And if you really like this game and you get to say, oh, I know a lot of these cards now. And so you have different decks that you can purchase and then mix in with the original. The classic version is a great place to start, but they also have events and inventions decks, and they're all just so well done. They're so compact and little. This is great for a plane, but also really works well for a restaurant or family gatherings. So just super ideal to bring along with you on any trip. Next up, we have Fluxx. This is a game famous for its changing rules, and it's really not too tricky. I recommend starting with standard Fluxx to get yourself up and running and see if you like the gameplay. You either love it or the changing rules are not really for you. Basically, there are different goal cards that can be played, and you want to have the correct keeper cards in front of you that fulfill whatever the goal is, and then you win the game. That's it. But there are also new rules that can be introduced. There are action cards that can require you to do different things. So there's a lot of, you're never just kind of sitting there zoning out while you're playing because things are happening, which is really fun. So then if you play and you get the base down, there are over 30 different versions of this game out there. And I always say, oh, with kids, pick the right theme and the kid will play the game with you. Things don't change much between kids and adults. The same thing with adults. If you have the right theme, people will want to play Fluxx with you. They have anatomy, fantasy, zombie, Jumanji, Marvel, nature, chemistry, Martian, SpongeBob, Doctor Who, and it's amazing how much that can help. We somehow ended up with zombie Fluxx, which is not my favorite theme, so we don't play it that much. But I did just find out about the Doctor Who version, and I really want that now. And if we had that, we'd be playing it a lot. So this is a great one to bring along. If you have the right theme for whoever you're traveling with, you will get a bunch of use out of Fluxx. And finally, I just want to put in a plug for any of the many card games you can play with a standard deck of playing cards, but especially Cribbage and Gin Rummy are such perfect games. They work well on an airplane, and they are good games to play just in general. Cribbage is so easy to learn. It's so perfect. It was invented in the 1600s and people still play it today because it's just nothing to improve upon. It is already perfection, and it's very easy to learn. I taught it to a group of 3rd graders when I was in my early 20s and was teaching a board game class at the school that I worked at. And I like to say that if you can count to 15 a lot and 31 occasionally, then you can play cribbage. You just are scoring different hands by pairs and runs and things adding up to 15. And then you go until somebody gets up to 120 points. Everybody knows the cribbage board, it seems like, and that's just, you don't need it in order to play, but it's just very helpful because you're constantly pegging where you just get 1 or 2 points at a time, and so it would be tricky if you were trying to keep score by hand until you were at 120. On the same Gin Rummy, I mean, it's just collecting sets and runs and trying to push your luck, see how close you can get to having all of your cards go down and get gin before your opponent is able to do the same thing against you. So they're just classic, beautiful, perfect games, and really, they're cheap. They're so cheap to play. You just need a deck of cards, and and it's fun to go and get. If you're at a destination, a lot of places have decks of cards that, will be like Colorado, and they'll say Colorado on them and show the mountains. And especially if you get into cribbage, I don't know what it is about people who get into woodworking, but anytime I've been at any sort of craft fair or something like that, any woodworking area, there's an obligatory cribbage board or two that they make. So another fun souvenir to get if you get into cribbage, then you have something to bring back to remind you of your travels. So play some of the standard games. They are classics for a reason, and they have stood the test of time, and you should definitely check them out. So that's it for my top 10 airplane games for adults. If you're stuck on a plane together, you might as well play a game together, and I hope you found a good one on this list. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time from Game Like a Mother.